Well, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. And of course, it is always great to see my very dear friend, Dr. Pachauri. And it is wonderful to be back here again in India. I love coming here. I love seeing all the action here. People are wonderful here in this country. Now, let me just say that I play an action hero in the movies. But Dr. Pachauri is a true action hero. You, Badge, always have been a great leader, and you have always been a crusader for the environment and to create a green and sustainable energy future. And what I love about you is that you don't just talk, but you create the action. I mean, just look at your program, the Lighting a Billion Lives initiative. What a fantastic program. Let's give him a big hand for the great work that he's doing. I also want to say thank you to Prime Minister Modi for all his work that he has been doing. I've admired him since he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, which I've heard is the California of India. And he has created some really good action, solar action in Gujarat, and he has shown that subnational governments have tremendous power, that we don't really have to wait for the national government to create any action. And I know, and I'm sure, that the Prime Minister is going to continue to lead and to prove the naysayers around the world wrong. So I just want to let him know I'm always ready to help, and it is great to be here. It's also great to be here because I have this ability of stepping in from the fantasy world to the real world. Fantasy world because I just finished Terminator 5, where we jumped around and we had the shootouts and explosions and drama and special effects. But all of this was movie magic. Today I'm here to talk about the real world, real action. And climate change is not science fiction. It is impacting us right now, just like Dr. Pachauri said. This year alone we would dump 40 billion tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And just recently scientists at the Lawrence Livermore Lab, one of the most famous and reputable labs in the world, have proven that we actually have underestimated the warming of our oceans by 24 to 58%. The World Health Organization says that air pollution causes 7 million premature deaths every year. And all over the world you can see flooding, monster storms, droughts, and wildfires that are completely out of control. And I've seen that as governor. When I started my term as governor, we had 4 months fire season. By the time I was finished with my governorship, we had fires all year round, and these were out of control fires. And the latest United Nations report predicts that further warming will slow down economic growth, increase poverty, and further erode food security around the world, and as mass migration and susceptibility to infectious diseases. This is bigger than any movie. This is the challenge of our time, and this is why I'm on a crusade to reverse this trend and to create a sustainable energy future and to terminate climate change once and for all. But if we're going to win this battle, we must think differently. Everyone knows that California is the mecca of the high-tech industry, with companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Apple. As a matter of fact, Apple had a motto, think different. And with that motto, they changed the world. So I'm asking all of you to think different. Let us also change the world. This is exactly what we've always done in California. By thinking differently, we have become 40% more energy efficient than the rest of the United States. If the rest of the United States would adopt our policies, we could literally close 75% of all the coal-fired power plants in the United States. Or it's an equivalent of taking 188 million cars off the road. As leaders from all over the world prepare for the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris, I want to share California's example with the world to show that thinking differently is really the only way forward. It is part of California's DNA. And we have always been willing to think differently to protect our environment. California has marched relentlessly towards a clean energy future, no matter which party occupies the governor's office. As a matter of fact, Californians don't even look at the environmental issue as a political issue. We look at it much more as a health issue, as a job issue, economics issue, a national security issue, or simply a people's issue, but not a political issue. We recognize that there aren't conservative roads or liberal roads, that we all travel on the same roads. There is no conservative air or liberal air, we all breathe the same air. There is no conservative water or liberal water, we all drink the same water. So when I became governor of California, I promised the people of California that I will continue the tradition of protecting the environment and to pump up the economy. This is why I was eager to continue to pass groundbreaking environmental laws, like the low carbon fuel standard, the green building initiative, the million solar roofs, where we added 1 million solar roofs to our homes in California, the renewable portfolio standard, to move our goal from 24% to 48% by the year 2020, and our tailpipe emissions reductions, which was first a California law and now it's a federal law. And of course, AB 32, our commitment to reducing greenhouse gases by 25% by the year 2020 and 85% by the year 2050. And our current governor, Jerry Brown, has just made a commitment to reducing fuel consumption by 50% within the next 15 years in California. So as you can see, the action continues. We sent an important message that we never wait for the federal government or any kind of an international agreement. We want to be their partners, but we don't wait. In California, we don't believe in waiting. We believe in being in a perpetual state of motion. When California passes these laws, of course, some experts thought we were crazy. They said it was Washington's job to do that the states had no business to do that. We said, the hell with that. We don't wait for anybody. Some so-called experts even said that the economy would go right down the drain, that it would wipe out, it would be disastrous for California's economy. You know what? The opposite has happened. Everyone knows that our green economy is going through the roof. We in California attract more than half of all the green tech venture capital in the United States. As a matter of fact, it's almost 60%, even though California only represents 12% of the United States. And we have raised 5 times as much capital as the second place state. And we are building solar plants, the biggest in the world, and we're building electric cars and hydrogen cars and biofuels. We do all kinds of things. There's action everywhere. But it isn't just the green sector. It's our economy as a whole that is thriving. In fact, we lead the nation in manufacturing, in high-tech, in biotech, in green tech, in agriculture, entertainment, tourism, and the list goes on and on. And as we've implemented our environmental standards, California's economy has outpaced national growth, even though everyone said that we're going to crash with our economy if we would go green. We know in California that we don't have to choose between the environment and the economy. We know the opposite is true. Protecting the environment will create an environmentally a good, sound state and also a sustainable economy for the future. Our success has shown to the world that subnational governments, cities and states and provinces can be a force in the fight against climate change. We are the laboratories of reform. As a matter of fact, subnational governments have the power to cut over 80% of the greenhouse gases as it is. But it isn't just in California. There's great examples of governments taking action all over the world. In Brazil, in Austria, in Germany, in France, in Norway, the United States, in every continent, in cities and states that there are people moving forward. In fact, last year in the United States, the solar industry created for the first time more jobs than the gas and the oil industry combined. And last year also for the first time, the solar industry created more jobs than the coal industry. And right here in India, you can find action everywhere you look too. Prime Minister Modi is leading the solar revolution. He recently raised India's solar investment goal to $100 billion by the year 2022, which will produce an additional 100,000 megawatts of electricity, but clean and green electricity. But it isn't just your national government here in India, it's all over India. You're moving forward in the cities, in the states, and also in the private sector. Under the Prime Minister's leadership, the state of Gujarat had a brilliant idea to cover its canals with solar panels. And then he became the national leader, and now the federal government has said that they want to cover over 1,000 miles of canals and create thousands of extra megawatts of clean electricity. Delhi, for instance, replaced all the polluting taxis and buses with clean burning natural gas vehicles, which emit 50% less greenhouse gases. And in the private sector, they have stepped up too. As an example, Coal India, the biggest coal company in the world, has just made a decision that they are going to have solar power in their own facilities, but they have also decided to invest and install more than 1,000 megawatts of additional solar. So even though it is a small gesture, but it is a gesture, and it shows there's a change in opinion, in minds, and they're thinking differently. So if the biggest oil company in the world can think different, what the hell is everyone else waiting for? I hope there's a new agreement at the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Paris. I hope that the governments of the world can come to an agreement so that we can have a Kyoto #2 treaty. Everyone knows I love sequels. And I know the French government is very serious about achieving an agreement in December. I've met with the French President, President Hollande, and Foreign Minister Fabius, who is with us here today. And let me tell you something, they, along with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, are very passionate about that, and they really are serious about walking away from that meeting, from that conference, with a huge victory for the world. And I know that India will be a big player in the negotiations. And I trust that the Prime Minister will do everything that he can in those negotiations to make our dream of a sustainable and green energy future become a reality. But subnational governments around the world should not wait for Paris. We should hope, and we should be supportive, and we should do everything that we can to make this agreement happen. But at the same time, subnational governments should continue doing their hard work and to live up to 100% of their potential. We should be working from the bottom up and from the top down. When those two meet, we will create critical mass. We should be defined by our movement and by our action, not by our hesitation. In California, we have been successful because we never waited, we never hesitated, and we never took no for an answer. We always think differently. And today, I promise you that I will continue my crusade, I will continue fighting, I will never give up. And I want to have the rest of the world join us in our crusade to create a green and sustainable energy future. Because it is our responsibility to hand this world over to the next generation in better shape than we inherited it. Thank you very much. Thank you.